stick around. We will be right back. So much. Hi, good morning, everyone. I have Reka Farkas with us today. Now, when I did a cycle trip with Reka about a week ago, my son said, "They make you look quiet, mommy." Yeah. So I'm expecting a very lively conversation. Thank you so much for joining, Reka.
Thank you for having me. That's lovely.
Do you want to start by just briefly introducing yourself? How did you end up in Japan?
Oh yeah, sure. So my name is Reka Farkas. I'm born and raised in Australia, Melbourne. My parents are Hungarian, both of them. They're immigrants from back in the day. Um, yeah, so basically grew up in Australia, went over to Hungary for my university. Then 5 years ago, five, not 10, 5. So 5 years ago, actually got the chance to start working in Japan, and was pretty shocked and horrified and confused, like what? But ended up being a very good choice. And yeah, it's basically started road cycling here in Japan. So honestly, it was quite good. Yeah. So that's basically the short outline there. So
Yeah,
that's
great.
all there.
And then if
Yeah.
if people can want to find you, they can find you on Facebook, Instagram, and Strava, I believe. Is that right?
Yes. You can find me on Strava, Instagram, and Facebook, usually with the hashtag Lady Cyclist in Japan or Lady Cyclist. Um, it was about as obvious a handle as I could figure out without forgetting it. So it seems to have worked so far.
Yeah, awesome. So the big question, how
Yeah,
is it as a lady cyclist in Japan?
it's pretty good. I would honestly say that it's actually very, very nice. In in Australia, at least back in the day when I was there, it was far more difficult in Melbourne to get around on bike. In fact, it was quite dangerous back in the 90s. Um, so there wasn't much of a possibility as a teenager. I don't think I would have felt quite safe there. I mean, especially as I lived on a big road. If you know Bell Street in Melbourne, then it's quite a heavy duty traffic ridden area. So not too easy. Going over to Budapest, it was far better, especially as a university student, as a career beginner like myself. It was quite good, and in my job entails that I would need to go around to places. And actually, by bike, it was actually quite good. So I had a quite cute little old, um, a bit of a rust bucket, honestly. So I had a bit of a rust bucket that I would cycle around to different companies when I teach. But it wasn't the best in for a lady, I would say. Not that I'm much of a lady, but I'm sure cyclist lady viewers would know that catcalls, for example, or unwelcome comments, or in a bigger city, not so friendly drivers who don't seem to understand that a bicyclist is also a vehicle, is also not it's a bit stressful. I mean, it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, and recently Budapest has become much better, but coming to Japan and starting to cycle in Japan, it's a breath of fresh air. It's like I don't have to go out feeling stressed, which is lovely. So it's quite actually a hobby now, I would say. It wasn't quite of a hobby before. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I have to give a shout out to Tina McCarthy from Wheel Woman because she has brought us together and, of course, inspired me to get back on the bike. And we are having our next virtual and face to face ride together in Japan. If you want to join us, you can join us from anywhere in the world as well. We're going to try it again on the 11th. But that was the ride that I met you in Onomichi and had so much fun. And we had Joan join us from
Mm,
Tokyo. She did a virtual ride. And then we had Tina join us from
mm.
Australia. So if you're
Yeah.
interested, join us on the Facebook page for Wheel Women Japan, and we can share our photos and support each other. How did you get involved with Wheel Women?
My memory isn't that good, but it's basically through the Facebook, through Facebook basically. So I've been posting this really ratty looking blog for a while now on my trips, simply because it's just, I mean, it's nice. It's a beautiful place to cycle. I find so many nice things, meet so many beautiful people. And through that, through some connections on Facebook, Tina just pops up and we just start chatting. And she says that she's from Melbourne, my hometown. And I'm like, girl, nice. Like, that's already like a friendship point right there.
Yeah.
And just got to know her through that there. And so, I mean, of course, Facebook gets a lot of slack, but I mean, there are so many good things about it too. So having that sense of community and support and being able to share experiences, even
Yeah.
with people who aren't exactly here, is just lovely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's how I found Tina as well. She was doing a cycle around, which you can watch in the video interview with Tina. She was doing a cycle around her town of Melbourne and talking in Japanese as if she was cycling the Shimanami. I loved I loved it
She's
so
adorable.
much. Yeah. So Tina says hi there. Hi Tina. I'm
Hi.
loving I'm loving my jersey from Wheel Woman. So thank you so much. I'm sporting it today for the talk. And which will force me to get out and cycle today too. So it's
Of
good
course. Good.
motivation.
Good.
All right, let's talk about your rides, Rika. You have done
Yeah.
so much. So what do you love about cycling in this area? Can you give us some of your insights?
So I live in a small town east of Hiroshima City. So you would imagine that you have Hiroshima and you have Hiroshima City in the mid-south. And then to the east of that is a small town called Saijo, which is basically where the Hiroshima University campus is located, or some of it at least. And it's about 30 minutes ride by train along the Sanyo line, and it's absolutely gorgeous to start with. So there's like a little bit of a historic town here. And frankly speaking, it's got all the amenities that I'd need as a just in for everyday life. But if I go out like 5 minutes by bike, I'm in the middle of the countryside. So frankly speaking, it's just absolutely gorgeous. So no matter what the season is, I'm always finding something new, whether it's like the sakura season, whether it's like the ajisai season or the hydrangea season, or even at the moment, it's a bit of an early autumn, but if I go cycling, I'm seeing all the rice fields and all the gold and the green and under the blue sky. It's just absolutely lovely. And every little town in this region, even though it might not be as famous as some of the larger cities, they all have their own specific little personality and their own little quirks, and they're really cute and their own history, really. So it's just absolutely lovely to just cycle through them and just stop and wonder every now and again at, oh, what's this? Oh my gosh, I had no idea this was here. Like, oh my gosh, check that out. And it's really nice. You don't really have to go far in Japan to find really, really wonderful things that are just made with a lot of love and care. So it's just gorgeous. Yeah.
Erin, thank you so much for joining, Erin. Erin says, thanks, JJ, for all your lovely, interesting interviews. And biking in Japan is the best.
This is true.
So,
I
so
cannot fault that.
yeah. So, what makes cycling in Japan so much nicer than other areas for you?
For me, the actual, well, honestly, the driving culture for one. So being able to share the roads with drivers. I mean, of course, you have, look, there's idiots everywhere, like, to be honest, like, you can't get away. Humans are going to human no matter where you go. But people are more aware of cyclists on the road. They're more used to them. There's more of an accepted culture of driving and cycling. And it takes a lot of pressure off. So honestly, for me, if I'm going on a road and it's a bit busier for whatever reason, time of day or the type of road, it's I mean, I get spooked easily. Like, I don't want cars coming too close. It's dangerous. It's not good. But whenever drivers can, they do give you a lot of leeway. They give you a lot of space. And it is a very, very nice thing to be able to just get out on the road and enjoy it instead of worrying about who else is using the road, if that makes sense. So for me, that's a really, really big plus, the safety issue. Also, that there is a very big cycling culture here. Like if I go out anywhere, like if I go down to like Shikoku or over to Yamaguchi or Shimane, there's always someone along the cycling routes who is willing to start talking. So I mean, Japanese people are a bit notoriously shy about talking. But if it comes down to cycling gear and wearing cycling gear, the curiosity gets the better of them and they start talking. And it's really lovely. And I meet so many wonderful people who otherwise I don't think I would have had the chance to meet. So it's just really, really lovely. So I enjoy those 2 points quite a lot here in Japan. Mm. That's so sweet, Tina. Thank you. Yeah, so much hashtags, so much hashtag. Thank you. Yeah, cool. Ah, sometimes, yeah. I mean, you get that type of person everywhere, and emergencies happen too, so it happens. Yeah. Wow, I love that. That's working it. That's good. Cute. Mm, yeah. Mhm, 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 mhm. Yeah. And the bike maintenance and parts cost money. Like you gotta look slick when you walk cycling to work. Uh, uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I've had a couple of situations, but that sort of situation can happen anywhere and nowhere's perfect. But in the majority of the situations, I've literally had nothing to complain about. In fact, I can just get out, enjoy, and if I look after the drivers around me, they're that much more courteous around me as well. So it's nothing, no issue at all here. Yeah, I wouldn't say at all. It's nice. It's just nice here. Yeah. So I mean, I'm pretty much a noob still, so don't take me too seriously. So I've only been doing it for like, well, maybe 4 years-ish now. But for me in Japan, the major investment that I do advise most people is to get a bike bag. So a bike bag, especially if you're on your own or like myself, or if you don't have a car, like myself again, a bike bag is pretty much essential equipment. It's right up there with inner tubes and anything. Um, So in
Let
Japan,
me
you have
let
to.
me just
Sorry.
quickly say sorry. I muted myself for a second. I'm back now. Sorry, everybody. Okay, go ahead, Rika.
So so the idea is that in Japan, so especially in like outer regions of Japan, well, outer regions, but for example, in my area, so like Hiroshima, Yamaguchi, Okayama, Shikoku is where I mostly go. And in these areas, I usually plan my trips pretty much. I like planning trips. It's very, very good fun. However, what I've noticed is that, especially because I am on my own, more or less, it is always a good idea to plan for trips along major lines where there are buses or trains in case of an emergency, because anything can go wrong, and it's always best to have that leeway for that emergency. And as a result of a rather interesting cycling trip that went down the gutter, but is a good story afterwards, that I learned very quickly that a sorry, a cycling bag or your bike bag is actually essential, because public transportation in Japan will not allow bikes on to buses or trains. Even taxis might not take you unless you have your bike disassembled, in other words, taken out, the two wheels taken off and wrapped up in a bike bag. It's considered to be more hygienic, more space is left for other commuters, and you're less likely to dirty the seats and the clothes of other passengers. So those are literally the reasons behind it. So it makes sense, and they're not expensive, and they are well worth the investment, especially if suddenly you have a typhoon coming down on your neck. So and you have to get on the bus quick. So I can highly recommend that as a very good piece of equipment, honestly.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
especially for Japan. Yeah.
And you often talk about the bike shops and the bike shops being so good here for getting
Oh,
gear or
yes.
accessories.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So the bike shops here are actually quite a nice little community. So here in Saijo, we actually have, well, basically two, okay, three. There are actually five that I know of, but three of them are owned by the same gentleman. So that was quite funny to have a look at. But honestly, you can stop anywhere and get a free tire check, or free air is basically without question. Most of the people do speak a minimum amount of English. So if Japanese is not really your thing, or you're not quite strong in it, they are very, very sweet and do speak a little. You can get away with hand dances and stuff. Um, and they are very supportive and very happy to let you into their community. Most bike shops do have their own little bike rides for beginners, and they are very happy to include anyone who's wishing to join them. I mean, these two bike shops that I frequent more regularly, privately owned ones, I mean, they always have their own bike rides on Saturdays or Sundays. So the community is quite strong around the local bike shops, which again is something that I quite like.
Yeah, I found that it's here too in our area, that our local bike shop has become like family to us because we go there so often
Yeah,
for repairs, or
yeah.
even I know I should fix it myself, but I take them punctures if I
Mm-hmm.
if I have, and they just fix it so
Guilty.
quickly, right?
For
and
sure,
uh
yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're so supportive and helpful, and they often do like group rides which meet on their day off in front of the shop and then end at the shop, so you can learn like a new ride that you didn't know. So yeah, the local bike shops are a great community, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially if you're new to Japan, and if you like cycling, I definitely recommend making friends through the bike shops or
Yeah,
local cafes. It's really, really, really good way to
yeah, for
start.
sure. Aussie in Japan is saying, last time I rode in Australia, I had Land Cruisers and cars passing me at 80 kilometers an hour on country roads, was scarier than what I have become used to in Japan. That's true.
True
Yeah.
enough, yeah.
So
There you go.
a lot less scary in Japan. That's good to hear. Erin says, riding in Japan is such a special way of appreciating and connecting with Japanese culture, especially as a foreigner. I think so
Definitely.
too, Erin. That's so true.
Yeah.
And a lot of your rides, you go to local shops,
Mhm.
you show pictures of local, like, mascots and local areas, right? And I think you can really see it not just from a tourist perspective where you only come in by train, you only see around the station, right?
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
seeing a much deeper part
Oh yeah.
of the local area, which is
Oh
really
yeah.
much more sustainable in terms of tourism.
Yeah, definitely. And they do appreciate it. It's absolutely adorable that, like, for example, last year I went down to Kochi, which is the southernmost city of the Kochi prefecture on. So if you see was it Hiroshima, then you have the Shimanami Kaido, which I'm sure most of our viewers are quite familiar with now. And then that leads to a bigger island at the bottom, which is called Shikoku. And the bottommost prefecture of that is called Kochi, as well as the main capital of that prefecture. And I was going over what you gotta know is that there's a backbone for Shikoku Island, which is quite a large mountain chain, as it turns out. And having gone over that, I mean, I was expecting, look, I've become a bit spoiled because I've gotten used to seeing convenience stores every kilometer or so. Suddenly I'm without any convenience stores and I ran out of supplies. So I was not exactly myself coming down the mountain there. It's like 40K up, 40K down, basically.
Wow. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Like I can highly recommend. Just take more food, like and bug spray. That was the other thing. Bug spray is a big thing.
So
It's a big
do
thing.
you have panniers on your bike for the longer rides?
So for longer rides, actually, I despise luggage. So my biggest issue is that I hate luggage so much that I will minimalize anything and everything. And I do have a bar bag. I have a frame bag. I have a top tube bag, and I have a saddle bag, which is basically all taken up by my bike bag. And I have my back pockets, and that's about it. So in the front, I've got my one change of clothes, which is perfectly fine because most cycling hostels, and there are very, very good cycling hostels, they all have their own laundry and dryers, which is perfectly affordable. And I can highly recommend not needing to take more than one set of change. I have my tools in my frame bag, and I have my bike bag at back, and I have anything to eat in my back pockets, basically. So yeah, running out of those things was not nice, but I came across a very old, slightly dilapidated little supermarket in the middle of nowhere. I'm wondering who are the customers usually through there. I must have looked the sight. Like I'm sweaty, I'm gross, I'm probably not focusing well anymore. And I go in and I'm like, I need food. Like I really need food right now, woman. And there's this tiny little old lady there. She's just looking at me. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but I need food. And she's like, well, what do you want? Because she just gesturing around the store like it's a supermarket woman. Like, choose something. And I see this fresh eel nigiri that she made that morning from the river eel. And I was like, two of those women. And I start eating them, and she's like, sit down, sit down, sit down. She won't. So she's probably gonna be the news for the next 2 weeks after that. Like this crazy woman comes down the mountain, like so horrendous. And then the thing is, I'm eating there, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness, my blood sugar level is going up. And I look up, and the older lady, the absolute darling, just comes in with her tea. So she had made tea for herself, and she pours some and like drink, drink, and I'm like, oh gosh, thank you. So again, like I felt a little bad. I'm like, I didn't mean to come in like a zombie, but like, but again, you have this hospitality, and again, I would not have stopped usually at a supermarket like that, and to be able to, I mean, for her, that's business, right? So
Yeah.
out in the countryside, to be able to make something that delicious that Hiroshima City restaurants would envy, that level of quality it's just absolutely darling, and I would never have found it otherwise. So
Yeah, that's
highly
awesome.
recommended.
I mean,
Recommend.
that's one of the challenging things right now with being a tourism consultant is
Oh,
you're trying to recommend that places always stay open as usual, but nobody's coming. So
yeah.
especially during coronavirus, more and more places are closed, especially
Yeah.
outside the city center.
Oh, yeah.
So when you do find something open and they're so nice and welcoming, that's so lovely.
It's just adorable.
Wheel Woman says, I have made lifelong friends in Japan, literally after meeting them on the bike path. They have opened
Yeah.
my eyes to new places, new experiences, and even more new cycling buddies. That's so
Yeah.
true.
That is so true. So true.
And
Absolutely adorable.
when you were talking about Kochi, Erin
Yeah.
says that's a lot of mountains in Kochi.
Oh,
My
yeah.
my ex is from there. He went by bicycle. Natsukashi. Thanks, Erin.
That's so cute.
Let's look at some of your maps of your
Yeah, sure.
rides and talk a little bit about some of your rides. This one, now I noticed you're doing in miles, so we're gonna have to estimate how many kilometers that would be.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My
No, no,
Strava
that's
is
fine. You're fine.
not
It's
willing at all.
it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to have both actually.
Oh, that's
So
very nice, isn't it, though?
yeah.
Yeah.
So this one, it looks like a really big loop that you did around Higashi Hiroshima,
Mm,
64.2 miles. So I think that's about
about
90 or
100.
100.
It's
Yeah.
about 100. I think 61 is about 100, so it's a little over 100. Yeah.
And
I
it
think that was,
took you
yeah.
6 hours, 6 hours
Yeah.
10. So tell us about that ride. That looks like a great loop. How many mountains are in there? Quite a few, I reckon.
Uh, which one is that? Oh yeah, so in that one that was 2 weeks ago. So that was right the day after we had our Mukaishima ride. And I think well, my original plan, and this is how this sort of thing usually goes, is like wake up in the morning, it's a nice day. Let's go cycling. And I'm like, well, I've what's a new route I haven't been to? And I remember that I took a bus, and this is again something that's actually I can highly recommend. If you're casing the joint through a bus, it's really good to see what if you can manage or not. And I off a bus from Akitsu, which is in the near the seaside, a small town. Went from Akitsu to Higashi Hiroshima here in Saijo, and I was looking at the road. I'm like, it looks manageable, so let's try it out. Went down to Akitsu. It's early. Okay, let's go down the road down to Takehara. Get to Takehara. Still before 12. Mihara, let's go to Mihara. Off we go and just go around. And once I got to Mihara, I was like, but there's that route that I haven't found yet that I see from the train when I'm going over to Onamichi. I'm gonna find it. So I actually managed to find the route. So if you have a look at the map, there's a bit of a like, oh, wrong direction, and then go back around. But I mean, again, it's one of those things that it's safe enough and it's nice enough and it's just beautiful enough, especially in good weather, that you actually do have that feeling of wanting to explore and find new routes and see what else is to offer on areas that yeah you really wouldn't find otherwise. Like Akitsu is such a small town, but it's got such a beautiful ocean view or sea view from the Setonai Sea. They have a very small little town area where they have these lovely murals along the closed shop fronts. And they have a small temple that you go up to the top of a slope, and the view is absolutely gorgeous. And actually, they have a festival in February, I think, where they have a big kanji on the side of a mountain that they actually light up, and you can see it from that temple, which is actually pretty great. So again, it's such a tiny little place in the middle of nowhere, seemingly, but it's just steeped in culture and all their little things that they have there, and it's just lovely to even see a facet of that. So it just ends up being like collecting beads along the way of riding, if that makes sense. It's like, oh, look at this place, great, what's the next one? Oh my gosh, check this out. And then okay, what if we go that direction? Oh my gosh, what is this? And if you're lucky enough, you might even get a local to explain an area. And the thing is that it's quite interesting because you and me and everybody in our own local area, we don't think about what is usual for us. So when I come in like a bakagaijin and go like, "Sir, what's this?" and they're like, "Oh, why do we do that?" Like it's kind of cute when they're starting. It's like, "Yeah, that's the thing," but and I'm like, "But why do you guys do that? Why do we do that?" And it starts up a conversation, and then and it's really really sweet. And yeah, I don't know, it's just really is like collecting beads along a journey. So having that sort of like a cycling route and finding new routes between even places that I already know, is just super good fun and very motivating for me at least.
That's awesome. And I noticed that you've entered a challenge this month for October, the
Oh,
Strava Japan Club
oh yeah.
October Challenge. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about some of the challenges you've done or?
Again, these are like collecting Pokemon basically. So basically the cycling version of collecting Pokemon. I enter them and see if I can manage. I don't really put too much pressure on myself in that sense. So there are different challenges that you can do. For example, you can cycle for 100. You can do a Grand Fondo challenge. That's usually every month. Naturally, with the previous ride that I just mentioned, I immediately got the September version of that little badge, and hopefully this month as well. Um, you can do like a whole day in the saddle challenge. You can do, I mean, I do a bit of jogging as well to balance out the cycling as well. So you can do 5K, 10K. I am never going to go above a 10K. I'm not much of a runner, so so I entered the half marathon and the full marathon just to be safe, but it's never going to happen. I'm pretty certain. But they're good fun, and again, they're very good fun, and especially at the beginning when I didn't really know many people from cycling, it's a good way to sort of like motivate yourself because you have that sort of goal in your head of okay, I'm going to try this step now. I mean, at the beginning especially, I wasn't really capable of cycling much more than 10K. So having that motivation of okay, I did 10K, then I die, then I do 20K, then I die, and then 30K, 40K, and suddenly I managed to go from Inoshima to Matsuyama in one day on a cross bike, and that was painful because I didn't have the gear, but I did it. And that whole sense of achievement of, oh my gosh, how on earth did I do that? It's really good. And when I have an achievement like that, I kind of want to share in the sense of getting other people to go out and try it because I didn't think I would be able to do that. Like never in a million years would I have thought that I'd be able to do it. So being happy, that's another reason for okay, maybe oversharing, but but sharing these experiences is just to get out there and just try. You don't have to do a lot, but just do a bit and see and get yourself going. So it is very 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 lovely and very fun to be able to do that at your own pace.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And I know that you were a big motivation to me to do that meetup as well. And knowing that I was going to meet you because I had only managed, I've just dusted off my bike, just got it fixed up. Just I think I did 30 minutes the first time and everything felt wrong.
Yeah.
But I had that looking forward to meeting up with you in
Right.
Onomichi and doing that
Yeah.
great loop. And then my son
Good.
wanted to join, and then Vera, I see Vera is watching now.
Yay.
Vera joined us. And then getting together with other riders is also
Right.
so motivating, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I
Do
mean, that's a big, 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 big motivation. Like meeting up with you guys as well. It was just lovely. Absolutely lovely to have that. I mean, it's also nice to go at your own pace alone, but I mean, I do that so often that if I have a chance to meet up with other people and even just go just a little ride, just an hour ride, it doesn't matter. It's just nice to have the company and to just be loud together. Like, it was just lovely to be able to just let go and let your hair loose and just be silly for a while. It's just very very. It's just nice. It's just absolutely nice.
yeah. And you really know the island area because you were living out there. Do
Oh yeah.
you want to talk about the Mukaishima route that we did, the circle?
Oh yeah, sure. What you have to know is, for people who don't know the Shimanami Kaido, is that the Shimanami Kaido is basically an island chain connecting the city of Onomichi on the main island of Honshu to Imabari, which is on the smaller island of Shikoku. And it is the, oh gosh, how many islands? So there's a lot of islands, but the main route, and that's the other thing, it has a lot of little side islands, which just adds to the whole thing if you have the time. But the main islands is Mukaishima, Inoshima, Ikuchijima, Omishima. I think the next one is Hakatajima maybe, and then Oshima, and then you're in Imabari. And they're all connected with these absolutely beautiful bridges, which all have their unique look and shape and character, which just adds to the whole scenery. And we went around the first island of Mukaishima. And Mukaishima is basically just across from Onomichi, so it's like a maximum 5-minute ferry ride over. And again, the ferry ride itself is absolutely charming. So you usually can take about 3 or 4 different types of ferries go across. They're not expensive at all. And it's and once you're off on the other side of the dock, or the other side of the, basically the sea, even though it does look like a river. So it sort of threw me off the first time I saw it, because it's the sea, but it's so close to the next island that it looks more like a river. So it's actually quite nice. And basically we started out from the dock on Mukaishima Island. We went to the left, and our friend Higawa-san was nice enough to show us a new route around there, because usually I just go through the main route, because it's the first island and you want to get through it if you're going to go through the whole Shimanami Kaido, which is a bit of a shame, because as we saw, it's actually quite a lovely island in itself. And we basically went around the outside hem of the island. And again, there are so many beaches, so many little climbs and slaloms down, and cafes along the way, and pit stops. It's just charming, honestly. I really do think it's quite charming. And you have the little villages dotting along the way. It's just really, really, really nice.
And when we were doing the back roads, we didn't see hardly anybody. But once we hit the blue line, we did notice it was quite busy. So it was kind of nice to have that combination. Can you talk about the blue line for people who don't know?
So the blue line is basically the main sightseeing route along the Shimanami Kaido. So from Onomichi to Imabari, I think it was the original blue line, but I'm not good at history, so please double check me and call me out if I'm lying. But so the main idea of the blue line is that the blue line is supposed to mimic the color of the ocean. So the whole idea, the Shimanami basically means the island hopping, or the island waves. So basically the idea is that you go up the bridges, down the bridges, up the bridges, down the bridges, and you're going around. So that's basically the idea. It's very, very sweet idea. And the whole idea is that the blue line is basically mimicking the waves of the Setonai Sea, and the color is supposed to copy it. And basically you cannot get lost along it. Like, if I can't get lost, no one can get lost. It's just impossible to get lost there. Basically you have the road, and you have the lane lines of the road, and the furthermost line of the lanes has a accompanying blue line, which is about this color, which is very clearly marked. And along at X intervals, the blue line is interrupted by a small stamp, which shows you the upcoming city or the direction where you're going, so either to Imabari or Onomichi, and it shows you where to turn in case of an emergency. Or not emergency, well, in case of needing to turn, which would be an emergency if you didn't actually follow the line. So, and along the line as well there are a lot of signs to help you along the Shimanami Kaido, so you don't really have to worry if you don't speak Japanese or read Japanese, because you have signs in multiple languages, in fact. So you have them in English, Chinese, I think French, Italian, maybe Spanish. I'm not good at differentiating Spanish and Italian, so probably Spanish, I think. And even along the route, you will have pit stops, which are basically shops that are affiliated with the Shimanami Kaido association or group or whatever it's called. And these stops are all have bike racks to help you place your bike if you have a road bike and no stand like myself. The convenience stores all have proper road bike stands, so you do not have to worry. You can just roll in, put your bike out, get your stuff, sit out. There are plenty of places where you can actually sit out and enjoy the sun, which is not really typical in Japan. So it's just lovely to be able to sit out and just go like, oh gosh, okay, next step. And it's nice. It really is very nice. And even along this line, you don't really have to worry much about punctures and stuff, because there are a lot of bike stores. And even I think recently they started a bike taxi service where you can actually put your bike on the top of the car and have that. Or you can take the bike bus as well. So there's a specific bus catering to cyclists. And I have taken people through the Shimanami Kaido who don't speak much Japanese or are not really familiar with cycling on shorter routes or longer routes. I think there was a gentleman from the US early this year. Last year, I actually took a couple of my colleagues and friends on a bigger group, I think 7 people. And the gentleman from the US, he is a very good cyclist, but absolutely no Japanese. So he was quite worried if he would be able to manage. But we went down one and stayed over in Imabari. And on the way back, he was actually saying, like, actually, it's not as bad as I was worrying. So he was worried about the language barrier and everything. And I'm like, but you see, it's not difficult. And he said, like, yeah, I wish I had come earlier, if I had been brave enough to come earlier. Because I do post in these groups, like there's an Iwakuni road bike group and these different groups in areas. I post, like, I'm going down now. If anyone wants to join and can stand my slow pace and my Instagram instincts, then like feel free to join. So, or even last year, I took down this group of 7. So there's a lady from my Zumba group, my colleagues and their partners, and one of my very good friends from Tokyo, who was actually an exchange student in Hungary, who came over to visit. 7 of us, I think 7 or 8 of us. And neither of them have ever even been on a road bike before. And they did so well. And it was so lovely to see that after they got over the, what is this? Then after like 10, 15 kilometers, they were like racing each other down the bridges and everything. So it was just lovely. It was just absolutely glorious. And since then, they've been like, let's go again. So we really are looking forward to going again. So it's a very, very good road for beginners because it's very safe. And there are so many points of help. It's clearly marked. And you can just enjoy the view, enjoy the cycling. And it's beautiful no matter what the season you go in. Even winter, it's absolutely lovely.
Yeah. I think that's for our area definitely the most famous, definitely the most services and support for riders. It looks like you also ride a lot in Kure.
Oh yeah. In Kure, it's actually very nice as well. So I mentioned that you have the blue line over the Shimanami Kaido, but happily, the blue line has been extending all over the region. So you will find blue lines all over Shikoku and all over Hiroshima area too. And it's just really, really great that we are developing in the way that we are really trying to get people out into these areas that otherwise would not have people coming through, and making it a sport to just get out, exercise, get some good air, get some vitamin D, and also support local businesses and having people integrate and talk to and get to know people in these areas because they're just lovely. Kure is known for submarines. It was a World War II outpost, maybe.
Navy, and yeah. So of course, Kure. I'm trying to get a local guide who does deep Kure to be on the series and tell us more insights. But Kure is really interesting. It has a very strong naval history. So it
Mm.
has a big warship and museums and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But also you can see like submarines in the water as
Mm.
you're going by. Kure is also really famous for curry rice.
Oh
That's
yeah.
where curry rice is most
Yeah.
fond. They
Yeah.
used to have curry rice every Friday on the ships to
Mm.
give the all the sailors a sense of time,
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah.
And even in Kure, there's actually different recipes for the
Mm.
different ships. So you can go to a restaurant which has a slightly different recipe, and people are very loyal to one recipe or another. I thought that was so interesting.
It's just lovely. It is that. It is absolutely lovely. And you go through, and it's really, really. You can see the history, and you can feel the whole atmosphere of it. And again, if you go along the Shimanami Kaido, there's one sense of feeling there. If you go down to Kure, you get a whole different slice of Japan. Like you really can't compare. It's just such a different route, such a different feeling to it. And of course, you can through Kure, you can go over to Kurahashi Island and Etajima, which is again another universe in itself. So no matter where you go, you will find the blue line in this area, and they are all very much the little microcosms of culture and local community, which is just as interesting as it gets. It's really, really, really lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, you've shown some beautiful photos from Etajima, from Kure, along
Mm.
that coast.
Oh yeah.
Some parts are industrial and busy with
Yeah.
traffic, but you'll soon get out of that busy area,
Oh,
I
for
think,
sure.
on a bicycle. Um, Tina says cycling anywhere on the Setouchi should be slow. There is so much to see and enjoy and
Mm.
experience. Why rush when you can immerse? Good point.
Exactly. Exactly. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, you sometimes, I mean, like any kind of travel or tourism, you sometimes hear about people coming to do the Shimanami in
Yeah.
one day because you could if you wanted to.
But
But why?
yeah.
Why do you want to do that, right?
Yeah.
Why not take your time? You stop at local places,
Oh yeah.
eat some local food,
Oh yeah. Oh
sit
yeah.
in the sun and rest. I mean, it's
Oh
just
yeah.
so much more enjoyable, right?
I mean, I can highly recommend the chicken place on in Setoda on Ikuchijima. Like that is like the place I want to. If I go through that place, there's no way I'm not stopping and regretting it 10 kilometers down the line. I'm like, oh gosh, my stomach hurts now, but that chicken was worth it. Like,
Yeah, you on your Instagram and your Facebook, you do share some of your favorite eating spots, and
of
you
course.
had one, a Peruvian Brazilian place
Oh
that
yeah,
you
that was so
discovered.
cool.
Where
That
was
was
that?
really cool.
In Higashi
In
Hiroshima?
Kaitai, that was in actually in Kaitaichi. Yeah, that was actually quite interesting. We were going it was again quite interesting situation, typical planning for cycling. So I know a couple of ladies here in Hiroshima who we go cycling with every now and again when we have time, and they're adorable. And they've taken me up to the north of Higashi Hiroshima where there's a small farm called Kadore, and they make actual fresh gelato from the cows they have there, and they have goat farms, and it's adorable. So in return, over Obon, I actually bumped into one of the ladies when I was going shopping on Friday night, and we start chatting, and she goes like, oh Reika, I saw your pictures and I want to go cycling. And I'm like, want to go tomorrow? She's like, tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. Like, and she's like, yeah, I have time. Okay, cool. 7 a.m. we meet up. We grab another lady, and they haven't been down the route from Saijo to Kure, which is actually quite a lovely route, and I quite enjoy it. I go quite frequently along that route because it's just relaxing. And I took them down there, and like I asked them that, like, what do you guys want to do after? Because if I get tired, I've got my bike bag, I just pack up and I get on a bus and I go. They didn't. So we decided to go around the. So you go down along a river to Kure, and then you can go along the coastline up to Hiroshima, which is again a lovely, easier ride. So these ladies don't cycle quite as psychopathically as I do. So I didn't really want to give them a hard route. So that route is actually very friendly, very flat. And honestly, I wasn't looking for climbing either. So we went along there. And in Kaitaichi, we stopped for lunch. And, the ladies were just looking for restaurants on their phone. And it was a very hot day. So it was like 35 degrees. So it was like super Australian style hot. And I was loving it, but the ladies were not so into it. So we just looked up our phones and we found this, what is the name of it? It's quite
Yeah,
Brazil and
Vera
Peru
Vera
cafe or
just said
something.
it's cafe restaurant Peru and Brazil
That's it.
in
That's it.
Kaitacho. Great
That's
food.
it. It is lovely. And that was just glorious. Again, it was a little place. It felt like you entered a different country. The lady comes out all jiggling to music. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really like this place. Okay. And it was just lovely to just sit there and just pig out on this glorious food and eye the sweets on the counter, but realizing that's going to be very difficult to get back after that. So so again, like again, it's not just Japanese culture you can find here. Like there's so many people from all over the world, and you can meet up with them. And again, like with this lady who owned that restaurant or who worked at that restaurant, like I don't speak Portuguese or Spanish or any sort of language that is used in South America. So being able to speak with them in Japanese and have a bit of a chat is just lovely. It's just absolutely lovely. And again, a gem that I would not have noticed otherwise. So it's just good fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You also had a beautiful looking okonomiyaki, which of course is the food of the area, but you had with kimchi.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that from?
Oh goodness me. I've eaten so many kimchi okonomiyaki, I have no idea anymore. So, okonomiyaki is of course the soul food of Hiroshima, and I will fight anyone who will say Osaka style is the real style because that's just Osaka style. That's a pancake, guys. We do not count that. And all my Osaka friends are gonna go ape crap over this, and thank you very much. Love you too, guys. But But I mean, okonomiyaki is really one of those foods where you can sit in, you're talking to the person making it, and you ask for what you want in it, like literally in the name, what as you like it, basically. And the kimchi one is lovely if you're having it in winter. For a winter cycle when it's a bit chilly, the kimchi with a bit of a spiciness in it, it just clears everything out. You have a bit of a rest, a bit of a chat, and then you're good to go. And it's great. So it's one of those things where you have this hot plate, they're cooking it in front of you. You can chat with the person, start making your food. And it's just great. It's one of those things that it's really an experience food, I feel, and it's quite lovely.
Yeah, I think it's not just eating food, it's an experience because
Mm,
you sit at the hot plate, you can talk to the staff as they're making it.
mm, mm.
Now it's possible to ask without meat or without fish or, have it as you like, even in terms of vegan, vegetarian. So I think it's something everybody can try.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't I don't know about gluten free. I think gluten free okonomiyaki would be very hard because everything is gluten basically.
Everything. Yeah.
You also
But I mean,
yeah, you also introduced a great looking place which I have got to find, a
oh,
Mexican place in Onomichi where you have tortillas and you have looks like
yeah,
you
yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
fajitas. Is that right
Fajitas.
on the boardwalk? Where is that?
Yeah. So if you know Onomichi Station and you have the hotel in front of Onomichi Station where you go up the boardwalk to go down to YouTube down there. So on the corner of that, right across from the ferry dock basically is this restaurant, and they were absolutely lovely. Like we went there without a reservation. So my hopes were not very high. So because there's a limited capacity of people at the moment because they are spacing people out more. So it's even more important to make a reservation at the moment. And again, it's super safe. So here in Japan, things really are very clean, very safe, very orderly. So you really don't feel that it's an issue even at the moment, unfortunately, with this unfortunate situation. So we went in, and the gentleman was saying like, "Nah, I mean, we're booked. Do you have a reservation?" "No, we don't." And he says, "Well, I'm sorry." And we're like, "Oh, well, never mind." Like, we were expecting that anyway. So we went out and thinking about where else we wanted to go. And then the gentleman comes running out after us saying like, "Give us 3 minutes. We just had an opening. Just come back inside." And we're like, "Thank you, sir." Like, thank you. And we just sat down and had a really, really great meal with great service. And just people are just so happy to be able to have visitors who show interest in their businesses. It's just really nice that there's that sense of supporting local businesses, restaurants and bike shops, and even so they usually give great service to us even at the best of times. So at the moment, with more difficult times, it's nice to see more and more people are just wanting to give back to that.
Yeah.
And they really are just amazing, and it's delicious. So I'm like, I don't know, I have no, it's worth it. Like a couple of extra centimeters on my posterior, but
No, you can work it off. You're doing so much cycling. That's what I love about doing long rides is you're like, I earned this. I can, I have worked this off. Yeah.
yeah.
It's all in balance.
It's all in balance. In fact, I would highly recommend to beginners to cycling in Japan to actually look at food maps. And I'm a simple person. If there's food, I'll cycle any amount of kilometers to get there. So
that's so true, right? Like,
it's a good motivation.
Make your map based on what you want to eat, and you will have the best day ride ever.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
As long as they're open.
5 kilometers, it's like okonomiyaki. Oh my gosh, it's like it's there. Like, you don't need any more motivation than that.
Yeah, absolutely. We just have a few more minutes. Is there anything we haven't touched on? Any hazards to watch out for? I saw one of your photos with a snake.
Oh yeah. So I mean I am Australian, so so snakes are given, but I mean you do have to watch out. In the early morning you will often have snakes out on the road trying to sun a bit, poor babies. So I have cycled past snakes on the road, and they've literally jumped in shock with my stupid bum coming past, and like, "Damn it, woman, I'm sunbathing here and you have to cycle past to scare the crap out of me." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, baby." So yeah, you have snakes and you should pay attention to them. Another thing is that I highly recommend is bug spray. Like my trip to Kochi would have been way better if I had known about horseflies. Like being chased up the mountain by a swarm of horseflies was not really the way I was intending it to be.
Yeah, those really hurt because
they hurt.
They cut open your skin to drink, and then it becomes infected and hard, and those are awful.
So my legs were covered in bites by the time I got to Kochi. So honestly, the moment I entered Kochi, I went straight to the pharmacist and I got bug spray, and it's now now it's just living in my bike bag. I am not going anywhere without it. So I can highly recommend bug spray. Also bells. So if you're worried about snakes, having some sort of like bell on your bike, like snakes and bears who do frequent the countryside, they do listen for humans. So usually when there's a human animal interaction, it's because they're surprised, like we are. We weren't expecting them, they weren't expecting us. We would rather avoid each other. So it's always best to give a signal to the animal that you're coming, so accidents don't happen, because they don't want to mess with us.
That is a really good idea. I noticed that on our ride around Mukaishima, that some people had a bell that was just ringing the whole time instead of just ringing when you want to go around. It was just like a nice sounding bell, but it was just kind of constant. I think that's kind of a good idea.
It's also good for pedestrians as well, because sometimes things get a bit crowded and a bike is quiet, so they won't know. So it's always best to be clear. And same thing with actual being visual. So to actually, like I have these rather reflexive things on my wheel, And I have been sort of called out, like, Nika, what are those? Those look weird. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Japan gets very dark when the sun goes down. So the more reflexive materials you have, be visible, be heard, be visible, because I mean, especially in the countryside, the road quality on the edge of the road might not be 100%, and the roads are not very well lit because there's a lot of road and it's the countryside, the population is low, so of course it's going to be more dark. So me, I usually avoid cycling after dark unless I can help it, and always be prepared. So always make yourself visible, make yourself heard, carry an emergency aluminum blanket thingy just in case, and you're pretty much okay. So I would recommend those in terms of safety.
And a
So just make sure.
punk repair kit, which
Oh, for sure.
we had forgotten, but luckily our guide had one and was able to help Vera out. Oh my goodness, knock on wood. I also noticed you are into the temporary tattoos, so that's kind of a girly thing, but it helps, you know, you feel pretty while you're riding.
It's also kind of fun. It's also pretty fun. So I literally got some Halloween ones for Halloween this round, this season. So again, it's one of those little silly little things that is like a good motivation for those who have that sort of taste. So any sort of thing to make it fun. I mean, so many people are so serious about cycling, and then kudos to them, but I am not a serious person. So being able to like spruce things
have
up.
fun with it, and then you know that's how you want to do it, so you should do it.
Yeah.
Last comments. In Australia, I've been chased by a tiger snake while riding. So I ride in Japan. I freak out when I see a snake, even though they aren't dangerous. So it's always best to err on the side of caution. Even if they're not dangerous, give them a wide berth for sure. Aussie in Japan says, love it. Most of my rides are motivated by food.
Nice.
With a cyclists who love food, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get food.
Absolutely. Vera says, wonderful interview. Thank you for sharing it with us. I'm looking forward to riding again with you. Yeah, us too, Vera. And Vera says, yes, I'll be sure to bring along the repair kits.
I think we all will now that we've all been scared into it.
I know. I think it was a good reminder to all of us that this could ruin your day of riding. So definitely we need a repair kit with us. Yeah.
True.
Thank you so much, Rika. That was an awesome talk, and we learned. I think we feel motivated to get out on the road. So I'm going to go for a ride myself right now. Just do a short one. Enjoy this good weather. Autumn is a beautiful time to ride, so it's perfect.
Yeah, get out there, see those leaves. They're really looking good now, starting to look good now.
Yeah. Stephen Wheeler says some snakes are scary, right? And Tina says, can't wait to be able to get back and ride with everyone. Yeah, us too, Tina. We're looking forward to having you here riding together. And if you're interested in doing a virtual ride from wherever you are, please join us for a 2-hour ride on the 11th and send us your pictures and we'll support each other. Yeah, thank you so much, Rika.
Thank you so much, Joy.
Everybody, have a good day. Bye.
Bye.